Welcome to today's show. I am your host, Eric Donnelly Small. If you like the content that you see in today's show, I encourage you to like and subscribe, and you can click the bell so that you're notified when there is new content available. On today's show, I am going to reference a number of articles that I have found online that sort of bolster my position, what I'm going to talk about today. And I encourage everyone to take a look at those links. You'll find them on my Mastodon at mastodon.vtip.me/at what you missed. And one of the things you can do there as well is reach out to the show, reach out to me, and give me your opinions about today's show and what I've talked about. Share your insights and views as well. You can also comment on the in the video. So today's show, I was going to let this pass, but it is, we're coming to a new year in a day or so, and I felt like I couldn't let this go. One of the things that, if you come to this channel, one of the things that you're going to know about this channel is that I like to talk about some things that no one else is talking about, what you might miss if you are not looking in the right places. You got a busy day, you got things going on. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is this fight on the right that has talked about and has been bantered about regarding, and it's all regarding, of course, immigration. Donald Trump ran on racism. He ran on the threat of the southern border. Mexico, quote unquote, was sending its worst. They were all a bunch of thieves and terrible people and whatnot. And it was a racist attack. How do we know that? Well, part of that is is what I'm going to talk about today. But there are some groups that are totally okay, that the Trump administration and his allies are totally okay with. That has created a division, a split, a schism perhaps is growing between the MAGA right, the conservative right that is wealthy, and the poor or middle class, average Trump supporter, MAGA supporter. And the wealthy Trump supporter is primarily coming out of the tech industry. And there was a big brouhaha last week over H-1B1 visas and messages on Twitter X from the likes of Elon Musk, a billionaire, and Vivek Ramaswamy, another billionaire, who championed H-1B1 visas and basically said that Ramaswamy at least said that the problem with not hiring American is not that there's a problem with America, it's a problem with Americans' culture. And he speciously and bizarrely decided to go into the 1990s and TV shows from the 1990s as examples of where America has gone wrong and their kids have sort of gone wrong by watching 90s TV shows, which sort of give you the wrong values in life, but curiously ignores the effect of social media on our young people today and how much damage it's doing to people. And I think that's a tell to show you exactly where Ramaswamy and the tech bro right is. They're at war with some extent to the culture, the entertainment industry also that comes out of LA, as well as at war with the quote unquote culture of America, which got the right upset. But anyway, I'm going to get all into that in a minute in my closing thoughts. But first, to begin with, and this is a very interesting article. Let me make sure I can bring it up here. But when I saw this, I said I had to talk about this. And this is a return to race science, which I understood it and called it eugenics. And people of a certain age may understand it as that. But so the title of today's video is DEI and the Attack on Diversity. Race Science Gives Smart People an Excuse to be Dumb. And these sort of smart people who are mostly white, rich males are threatened by imagined white genocide. What is really going on? And that's basically the focus of today's video. Is I'm going to try to, first of all, talk about what it is these two groups within the MAGA right, within the conservative right, believe in. together, and then show how the schism, this break, is developing, because neither side really is. I believe one side is using the other side to get power and to get what they want. And then once they get in there, they're gonna, change the whole script on them, and you can kind of guess and which side is scamming the other side. But anyway, so on today's show, we're going to talk about this return of race science, which is a zombie idea, why DEI had to die in attacks on diversity, racial resentment, the glue that binds them all, and my final tips and takeaways. So let's get into this. This new / old zombie idea. And the term zombie comes from Paul Krugman, who Paul Krugman is an economist who defined a zombie idea as, quote, a view that's been thoroughly refuted by mountains of empirical evidence, but nonetheless refuses to die, being continually reanimated by our deeply held beliefs. An excellent summary of what I think is going on here. I would say such an idea in economics would be tax cuts spur growth. I suspect Paul Krugman may have been inspired by George H.W. Bush, famously calling it voodoo economics. But race science is about to be added to that list of zombie ideas. And I just want to note that Krugman, who coined that phrase in the New York Times article, has since retired from the op-ed and now has a Substack. And I suggest people read it. He posts pretty regularly now on that Substack since he's been off of the New York Times. I think it's an excellent read. But anyway, going on, this is the Silicon Valley is reviving a discredited and discriminatory idea of race science. This is from Scientific American. It's an op-ed. It was released on December 17th by David Robert Grimes. And I'm going to read now from that article. Again, go to our Mastodon to see the full article, link to it. I highly, highly recommend you take a look at the full article, because what I'm going to, these are snippets that I'm going to read from right now, but the article goes deeper into more important facts and discussions about race science and racism and all that kind of stuff. And you would do yourself a favor to read the entire article. And I've also encouraged people over the years to take a look at a video that I've had on this and talked about this on this channel called Race, the Power of an Illusion. Excellent. It came out in the 90s. There's a link, a website to it. I might even put the link. I'm sure it's on the Mastodon, but I might put it somewhere to talk about racism and this illusion. But anyway, getting back to it. So this is from, again, Scientific American. Take a look at the full article in my Mastodon. So it goes. In October, an expose in the UK's Guardian newspaper revealed a network dedicated to proliferating race science worldwide had received years of funding from Silicon Valley. That same month came Donald Trump's comments decrying immigrants as, quote, a lot of bad genes in our country right now. In June, it was revealed that a UK Reform Party candidate had previously insisted that sub-Saharan Africans were lowering IQ in the country. But while its modern advocates rebrand scientific racism as, quote, human biodiversity, such insidious euphemisms are just attempts to give a veneer of respectability to hateful pseudoscience beliefs. Last year, a then forthcoming book, The Origins of Woke, by right-wing author Richard Hananen, was lauded by tech industry figures David Sachs and Peter Thiel. That same year, the Huffington Post reported that Hananen had previously written under a pseudonym for white supremacist websites. He then wrote an essay in which he claimed to give, quote, an explanation for why I wrote such things and why I no longer hold such views. But critics suggest those views are reflected in his book and in racist comments he has continued to make, including his suggestion that people of color need aggressive policing and more incarceration. Modern proponents of race science insist they are not motivated by racism, By simply reporting data on intelligence, this dubious claim was fostered by the publication of the Bell Curve in 1994, which propagated the idea that African Americans were intellectually inferior. Related is the worldwide anti immigration invective that asserts immigrants are intrinsically different from and threaten to outbreed the existing population where they settle. Such panicked narratives lie at the heart of the modern Great Replacement and white genocide conspiracy theories. Most damningly for proponents of race science is that race itself is a largely fictitious construct so nebulous as to be scientifically useless. Humans differ at a genetic level by only a minuscule amount, and the idea of essential racial traits or clear lines, the dark renaissance of scientific racism today, is concerning, but must be seen and rejected for what it truly is, a hollow attempt to drape discrimination in the garb of science and reason. So, an excellent expose as to what is happening on the tech right and what is really at the core of this argument regarding wokeism and DEI. We're going backwards to an ideology and to a belief system that has been around for a long time and is thoroughly discredited. A zombie idea, much like the economic zombie ideas on the right, have been around for a long time and is still believed, even though all evidence to the contrary exists. But I also want to go on to this specifically regarding this attack on DEI, attacks on diversity, and why DEI had to die. Why the concept of diversity was so threatening that it had to be taken out by the conservative right. And on a little personal note here, which I find very fascinating, a lot of this stuff is coming out of California, which has a reputation as a liberal bastion and a place where DEI and diversity efforts run rampant. But in two of the centers of power in California, both the tech industry and in the entertainment industry has never been diverse. Never. And both have struggled to show diversity efforts are real, and as soon as there is a modicum of success, the projects die. Why? The real concern for the racists is not failure of blacks, but success. Hence the attacks on DEI, which is not a threat to whites, but its power and potential success is. Remember, one of the cardinal beliefs that I have is that the threat to and the success of African Americans through programs is the real threat to the white racists. Going way back to Reconstruction, the concern and the argument had always been that government should have no ability and should not spend any time, money, or energy in diversity efforts. Why? Because government is the only organization that can create the environment to create a more diverse and a more balanced society. No other group can do it. So, of course, racists and those who believe in white genocide and white supremacy are threatened by any attempts, both on the government level and in business, to diversify anything, because the government is the only one who can successfully do it. And the threat to successful blacks and people of color is a threat to their supremacy and to their power base. So this is why DEI had to die. And this is an article from the Washington Post, August 19th, a few months ago. And it talks about the movement to diversify Silicon Valley is crumbling amid attacks of DEI. Naomi Nix, Kat Zarowski, and Natisha Tiku are the writers on this. They have the byline. And so pictured there is a woman by the name of Adriana Gasconi. So going into this, so it says, Girls in Tech, a nonprofit dedicated to recruiting women in the tech industry, was a Silicon Valley darling, with major companies eagerly partnering with the group after 2007 launch. But in a single week in late 2023, 5 key donors pulled their funding, citing market turbulence. To stay afloat, the group's founder, Adriana Gasconi, considered merging with Women Who Code. Days after she floated the idea to members of her board, Women Who Code shuttered. Girls in Tech was part of a network of nonprofit and consultants that blossomed in the early 2010s to promote race and gender representation in Silicon Valley. The network has struggled amid a growing political backlash against diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI programs. After the Supreme Court struck down race-based admissions at Harvard and other schools, advocates have levied similar legal challenges against corporations. Some prominent tech leaders have recast DEI as a discriminatory movement, turning programs into a political liability for donors. DEI must die, Elon Musk posted on his social media platform X in December. The popular All In podcast, hosted by four tech investors, called DEI Dying, the Best Political Trend of 2023. Bolstered by support from top tech executives in the Obama administration, the organizations promised to transform the industry by finding, training, and promoting talent to diversify a large homogeneous workforce. Despite these initiatives, the tech industry's demographics remain largely stagnant. In 2022, 26% of the science, tech, engineering, and math workers were women, an increase of 1 percentage point from the year 2000, according to the U.S. Department of Labor. While the share of black workers in Google's U.S. offices increased by 2.4 percentage points between 2019 and 2024, they make up less than 6% of the company. Under public pressure, tech companies like Google, Facebook began issuing annual transparency reports in the mid-2010s, revealing that leading firms had only 1 or 2% Black and Latino employees. Carla Monterosso, a former CEO of Code 2040, which offers Black and Latino students fellowships at tech companies, marveled at how normal it was at the time for executives and employees to debate whether promoting diversity was lowering the bar for talent. We were really in the gunk of trying to prove people of color had worth, she said. Some donors had cut funding after Trump's 2016 election, privately expressing concern about unionization and worker organizing, said Montesero. Some tech executives became distrustful of diversity initiatives, she added, noting that lagging process on hiring and promoting underrepresented groups. The pendulum swung so far and people were not really being strategic, said Gasconi. Industry experts are discussing how to make diversity initiatives less polarizing, including using language around culture, identity, and belonging, or leadership development rather than equality or equity. So this is the thing. Two major things jump out to me at this. Number one, what jumps out is that DEI was actually not really doing anything. It wasn't in a big way making any changes in the tech industry, which counters the idea that there is a quote-unquote white genocide, or that in fact white people were losing jobs, which is what the Bannons, the Stephen Millers of the world were pushing, is that these DEI efforts were displacing large numbers of whites that were not now able to get jobs because of DEI. According to this article, 2%, 2% Black and Latino. That was the impact DEI was having on the tech industry. So that's number one, the lie of DEI as a threat to white workers and others. The other thing that jumps out to me very interesting is that the industry is diverse from foreigners. So although you don't have Latinos and American blacks, however, Asians, both from like India as well as from China, make up a good portion of the tech industry. So this effort against DEI is not about being against diversity from a race point of view, right? That's what they're trying to sell you here in the elections with Donald Trump and Bannon and Miller and the rest of them. They're trying to sell their white racist audience that they're trying to get rid of the the diversity efforts in America, because diversity makes us worse, poisons the blood. Remember, Donald Trump said that poisons the blood of America. But the fact of the matter is, and this is what came out in this big fight on the right with H1B1, is that the diversity that the tech bro right wants is not diversity of American blacks and Latinos, but of foreigners coming here. Indians and Chinese, maybe even some from Africa, parts of Africa, parts of other parts of the country. And note that a second generation Indian American and a South African, Elon Musk and Ramaswamy, both of those guys are running these anti DEI efforts, and at the same time are running to gut programs that would help Americans. So on the tech side, this is an anti American worker movement. And there's a quote in here about being DEI being concerned as it's a unionization effort and worker organization effort, right? That's one of the quotes that are made here. The other thing is that, again, this is about, and it came out over the weekend with Ramaswamy's tweets and all, that this is a concern about people in America, people of color in America getting opportunities, and even white people, perhaps, I don't know. But this is all about wealth on the side of the tech bro right. This is about class. And the oldest discrimination, going back to the Roman era and even further, is a class divide. So they're using the wealthy billionaire tech bro Trump is willing to use and be on the side of the racist right here in America, that has the race science, that has the eugenics, that has this belief that of white supremacy. They're willing to use them in order to get power and to get into office. But once they get into power and they get into office, they're going to abandon those ideas, because they're going to go right after anybody who is poorly educated, anybody who is poor, anybody who lacks resources and contacts, and they are going to screw them big time. And that is what everyone on the left is observing and seeing, including Paul Krugman and others who have begun to comment on the back and forth that's happening here. Fascinating thing. Last article here is a point to make that this is not just happening in America, but this is happening all over. And Elon Musk is at the head of this. Again, Elon Musk is a South African who came here on a H1B1 visa and is now trying to do everything he can to get more and more foreign workers here. He supports H1B1, but he has decided to use his platform and to use his money to begin to support some of these folks on in other countries who are dealing with the same issue of trying to beat back diversity efforts, and through a racist lens is trying to attack people of color in their countries. And one of the things is that racists always need and can find allies. Anyone really surprised at Musk's support for AFD in Germany? By the way, if you're a Tesla investor or you own a Tesla car, this is where your money is going to. This man who is deciding to sidle up against an organization in Germany that has its links to Nazi Germany and to the Nazi Party. And this is a guy who rails against Musk, who rails against DEI and wokeism in the U.S. He's, of course, a white South African who was born during the time of apartheid in South Africa. And so no one should be surprised that this guy is sidling up with the racists in Germany. And it is the one thing that binds, I said earlier, that links the Trump base with the racist base in the conservative part of the Republican Party. So, what's going on here and what's really happening? Well, outside of Elon Musk showing his true nature of being against diversity and being just basically a guy with a lot of money who wants to support everything that is right wing in America and is against, is willing to use his money to support right-wing groups while at the same time support the H-1B1 visa shows that there is a cognitive dissonance here, which is he is both against and for diversity. But this is a class divide. This is a class issue here. Final tips and takeaways. The right is bound together by a common interest, disdain for multicultural America. That core fear and aversion is what got Trump in office. But the recent brouhaha over the H-1B1 visas, we are beginning to see that not everyone is on the same page, or I would say would views race the same way. As inauguration day comes closer and closer, we are beginning to see the true nature of the racist battle on the right. Remember, the fear and concern regarding DEI and affirmative action is that if blacks become successful, they will supplant white people. This is what is called white genocide by folks like Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon. The racist right hooked on to that and to Trump when he began spewing racist nonsense. Parts of so-called liberal Northern California, like Silicon Valley, has joined the racist right. They have attacked DEI and began embracing race science and supporting Trump. But this new debate has exposed this rift, which the rich racist right are on one hand denigrating DEI. They have no problems having highly educated and skilled foreigners come to the U.S. to learn and quote-unquote take jobs from white Americans. This, not surprisingly, is offensive to the average American non-tech bro like Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller. Trump has come out on the side of the tech bros. Why? Money. At the end of the day, what the Trump supporter is going to learn is the old saying is true: follow the money. So that's it. Follow the money. That's what this is at the end of the day. The division that is being created by Musk, by Ramaswamy, which I may do a TikTok video doing my take on Vivek and his view of American culture and how it is supposedly doing in the average American worker, making them more lazy. At the same time, these guys are willing to have as many foreigners come in and take these good jobs. By the way, the jobs that are middle class, rich, highly educated, quote unquote, highly educated, meaning that they come from great universities or whatnot. And many of these people may come here, may take those jobs or go to the schools and whatnot and turn around and leave and take those skills back to their home country, right? They have no loyalty to America at the end of the day. They want to know what it is we know so that they can excel. But that's not what Ramaswamy and Musk and the rest of them care about. What they care about is power. And they're willing to use the race issue as a wedge issue to bring in more and more racial resentment. You've got the racist right and those people who are willing to look past racism in order for the price of eggs to go down, right? There's enough of them to take over America and put someone like Trump in power. That puts them in power. And then all they have to do is begin to cut taxes and move government to their needs, to cater to their wants, and the rest of us be damned. I believe that's the goal that is, at the end of the day, what the likes of Ramaswamy, Bannon, in some cases, and Musk are really for, as well as David Sachs and the whole tech Silicon Valley movement. That's their whole purpose at the end of the day. It is to gain power, and they will use racial resentment and the threat of DEI and white genocide and spew this nonsense in order to convince us of that. So let me know what your views are in the comments or on my Mastodon at mastodon.vtip.me/@whatyoumissed. Thank you for watching me today, and I'll see you on the next video, or you'll see me on the next video. Take care, everyone. Hey there, fantastic viewers. Eric Darnley Small here, and I hope you're loving today's episode of What You Missed. You've reached the end of today's show, but don't worry, there's more show coming up. If you're watching this on YouTube, please click the bell so that you'll be notified when more content is available. You can also help the channel by clicking the like and subscribe buttons. It helps the YouTube algorithm find new viewers so that I can keep bringing you all this incredible content you enjoy. But wait, there are more ways to support the show. You can make a contribution through the show's PayPal, which goes a long way in helping produce even better content for you. And consider becoming a part of our growing community by joining our Mastodon site at mastodon.vtip.me/@whatyoumissed for more engaging discussions and exclusive updates. And here's something you won't want to miss. Mark your calendars for our live show streaming on YouTube and stream.vtip.me Monday mornings, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Your support means the world to me, and together we're making What You Missed the best it can be. Thanks for being a part of my journey.